Hi. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today is many years ago when my son, who is now graduating, was much littler in elementary school. He received a project. He had to study a great person of influence. And at that time, of course, he relied on me. This is his project, which meant, mommies. So I chose that we study Mother Teresa. And this was so much fun for me because I loved learning about her. And one of the things that emerged in us studying Mother Teresa and writing this report was a quote that Mother Teresa had stated at one point, where she says, to do ordinary things with extraordinary love. And I'm incredibly grateful for having stumbled into that quote because I have utilized it ever since as sort of the motto of my life, the way of being, to try and do ordinary things with extraordinary love. And see, because every one of us throughout our days, every single day, you are walking through ordinary things, right? It's the same thing you went through yesterday. You're doing the same stuff. So it's really easy to go unconscious, to just shift into that place of just doing. And in that place, your mind can wander. It can go into all kinds of, sometimes, frustration about the things that you have to do. It's mundane, it's frustrating that you're doing it again, and sometimes we'll create stories about why is nobody helping me, and this sort of thing. And so to do the ordinary things with extraordinary love is really a way of not saying that I absolutely enjoy these things, but trying to find appreciation and gratitude for the moment. You can use this throughout your whole day when you're doing your ordinary things, like, doing your dishes or brushing your teeth. Instead of doing the dishes and just going through the motions, what if you find gratitude and you sit in that place fully conscious of what you're doing, connecting to the action, giving love to the plates, doing it with extraordinary love? What would that look like? To feel gratitude for not only having dishes, but having got them dirty with food. So you're plentiful, your refrigerator is full, and you have people that you're sharing these dishes and food with. And so there's so many things that you could be sitting there in gratitude. And this is finding extraordinary love in the ordinary things. So this is baby steps. You start to do this and suddenly magic begins to emerge in your life. Really, when we can do ordinary things with extraordinary love, when we can start shifting into that mentality of finding love in everything, finding gratitude in everything, this is how magic happens, like the rose that spurs out of the concrete, This is where we can start to notice the magic, the miracles in our everyday routine, in the ordinary things in our life. We can find the magic there. But we can also begin to take this and extend it into greater things, into profound things that not only impact us in our day-to-day life and the way we perceive them, but impact the world. And the way that we can do this is finding, again, ways that we can express extraordinary love in ordinary things. For example, and this is where my radical love concept comes in again, where I teach people the power of love to heal. Never has anybody said that hate, anger, frustration, guilt, any of those things have ever created any positive change. Never. But here's what I can do is I can find thousands, millions probably if I looked, of different experiences or examples of how love came in and healed in a miraculous way. See, because love has that ability. So the example I want to share with you today, and by the way, I'm going to put a link to this story underneath this video, so you can tap in, and I urge you to look at it, because if it doesn't awaken your heart, I don't know what will. And this is truly the power we should all be trying to tap into, is something that Mary Johnson has tapped into in a magical way. So her story begins in a place of tragedy. Her son was at a party, there was a disagreement, and he ended up shot and killed. This is her only child, her only son, not that that makes it any worse or better, but she was left alone and in grief, extreme grief. And in grief comes that anger, that frustration, that desire for somebody to be punished. So she ended up going to the trial, of course, of her son's murderer. And she sat in that courtroom and looked at him and thought to herself that she wanted to see him jailed like the animal that he was. She wanted him punished. And she went home carrying that anger, carrying that fuel of grief, the power within her. She also had her faith to turn to. And in places of grief, oftentimes this is where we'll go. It's either we dive deeper into the grief or we look for faith. And she turned to her faith. And in faith, she found that forgiveness, that there's this possibility that if she could forgive her son's murderer, that she might free herself. That doesn't free her son's murderer from the action. It doesn't alleviate the pain that he caused or anything. But what it does is it frees her. So she thought she would give it a shot. She would see if it was possible. So she asked if she could meet with her son's murderer. And so she ended up going to the jail. And, she didn't know if he would show up or not, but he did. And in their first meeting, they both sat there not really sure how it would go down. She didn't know if looking at her face, if she was his face, if she was even capable of forgiving this man. And so they went through their first meeting and then ended up having several more after that, where she was able to find in her heart forgiveness. And in fact, 17 years later, when this man was released from prison, he ended up not only living in the same city as her, but ended up living with her okay right next door to her. She became his reason for everything he did from that moment forward. See, because she had shown him something that he had never experienced before, this unconditional love. Her forgiveness gave him something to prove. He wanted to deserve it. He wanted to show her that her forgiving him was worth something. So he started to better himself. He came out, he got a job, he got an education. He started to show up in churches, not only attending churches, but actually speaking at them, teaching people the power of forgiveness. Through this, their relationship is now so close that he views her as his mother. As a motherly presence in his life, somebody who showed him unconditional love. And it's an incredibly, incredibly powerful story that shows the power of love to heal, how it shifted this man, and just hearing the story, how it's shifting you. That's the power. So I hope today that this is what you can find in your heart, is just start by little nuggets. Finding to do your ordinary things with extraordinary love. Be present as you're brushing your teeth, grateful for your teeth, grateful for your toothbrush, and really think about and consider what you're doing. Be present to it. As you walk through life and you see people, can you just do those ordinary things, but show up in an extraordinary way? Thank you so much.